People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. And if your biggest prison, is it the psychic structure you call I? What if, in an attempt to protect yourself from pain, rejection, the chaos of life, you have created an inner labyrinth, so complex, so well designed, that now you no longer know how to get out? You spend your life building defenses. From an early age, he learns to shut up emotions, put on masks, adjust. It shapes an acceptable, respectable, normal persona. But behind it all, something remains untouched. The original pain, the unseen fear, the shadow. Carl Jung said, "What you avoid governs you from within." And you avoid so much. Avoid emptiness, avoid confrontation, avoid feeling. But the mind, this tireless engineer, continues to work. It erects walls, installs control mechanisms, simulates normalcy. She convinces you that everything is under control. It's just that these inner walls, built to protect you, over time turn into a cell. And what was a shield became a prison. What was strategy turned into self-deception. You get used to living locked up, convinced that freedom is danger. In this video, we're going to explore this invisible enemy. Not the one outside, but the one that lives inside. The part of you that presents itself as protection but acts as sabotage. The part that stifles your spontaneity, that silences your truth, that poisons your own soul, all in the name of safety. Get ready. The journey is not comfortable, but it is necessary. The journey towards yourself begins now. The invisible wall. How your mind learned to defend itself. You weren't born with defenses. You were born exposed. With raw flesh, open eyes, raw soul. You were born sensitive to the world, whole, surrendered, not afraid to feel, not ashamed to exist. But the world wasn't ready for that. The first wounds came, small for the eyes on the outside, huge for your inner world. The subtle rejection, the absent touch, the silence after the cry. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel, so you follow the next contents and continue on this journey with us. Activate the bell so as not to miss anything. There came the judgments disguised as care, the comparisons that cut deep, the demands that shaped you like clay. And, little by little, something inside you understood. Just as I am, it's not enough. Faced with the unbearable, his psyche did the inevitable. He defended himself. He did what it took to keep going. And like a fragile child trying to contain an earthquake with his hands, you began to create. Not toys, but defenses. Invisible but concrete walls. Patterns of behavior. Adaptation masks. Characters carefully sculpted to survive criticism, abandonment, lack. His mind, ingenious, built a fortress. A complex and sophisticated psychic structure made up of ideas, of fears, of rigid beliefs about who you should be. And for every pain that could not be felt, a new layer formed. For every truth that could not be told, a new voice arose within you. Don't cause trouble. Pretend you're okay. Be useful, or it will be discarded. Show strength, never vulnerability. Don't feel too much, don't talk too much, don't trust totally. And what was protection became prison. What was needed became permanent. You began to believe that it was this role that you play every day. Began to forget who is behind the armor, behind the forced smile, behind the control. Over time, the wall has become part of you. You have become accustomed to hardness, detachment, extreme self-control. He learned to call it maturity, strength, responsibility. But deep down, it was just fear. Fear of falling apart. Fear of accessing that which was frozen. The restrained cry, the unheard cry, the gesture of love that never came. You fear what is on the other side of the wall because you know that your true self dwells there. The wounded self, forgotten but still alive. The self that feels too much, who wants to be seen, who wants to love without defenses. But that self is also dangerous because it reminds you of what you've spent your life trying to forget. What protected you yesterday imprisons you today. And the more you resist, the more the wall strengthens. The more you lose yourself in rigidity, in performance, in self-punishment. And so begins the most dangerous destruction of all, the one that happens in silence, inside a character that seems to work, but that inside is in ruins. The protector archetype, when the guardian becomes dictator. In mythology, the guardian of the gate has always been an ambiguous figure. He is there to protect, but also to prevent. It is the watchman between worlds, the one who measures your courage, the one who tests your integrity. He holds the key to the crossing, but only hands it over when you're ready, or think you are. In the psyche, this archetype is embodied in another form, as an internal defense system, attentive, rigid, hyperactive. It's that mechanism that says, wait a little longer, you're not ready yet, it's still not enough. It is perfectionism that requires excellence before any movement. It is the critical voice that turns every step into a threat. It is constant rationalization that sterilizes feelings before they reach the surface. Carl Jung clearly observed, the ego, when seized by fear, bows before this inner guardian. And what was supposed to be a protective force, a structure that ensures healthy boundaries, becomes a psychic tyrant, an invisible dictator, a censor who watches your emotions, checks your impulses, interrupts your authenticity before it's even born. How many times have you felt something deeply true and immediately nullified it with automatic phrases? It's bullshit. It's over. I can't afford to feel that now. How many times have you hesitated before an important choice, paralyzed by a fear that was not even yours, but inherited? How many times have you pushed yourself beyond the limit, not out of love, but out of fear of disappointing the invisible guardian who watches you from within? That inner protector doesn't want you to grow up. He wants you to survive. And survival, by definition, is the opposite of expansion. It is living in a state of alertness, operating under strict rules, avoiding the unpredictable, even if the unpredictable is exactly where the soul lives. Survival comes at a price. It kills spontaneity. It drowns the desire. It intoxicates the soul with a false sense of security while drying up the source of true life. You become functional, yes, but anesthetized. Produce, deliver, respond. But you don't feel it. You don't take any chances. It doesn't vibrate. This is the internal dictator, subtle, protector, lethal. He speaks on your behalf. He wears his voice. He looks like you. But it's only the part of you that still believes that feeling is dangerous, that living is too risky, that being who you are is an unforgivable act. And so you keep yourself small, tame, asleep under the watch of a tyrant made of fear, all in the name of a security that never comes. The minefields of consciousness running away from yourself tires. Have you ever realized how exhausting living can be, even when there's nothing else going on? How does the simple fact of being someone already consume everything in you? There is a kind of tiredness that does not originate in the body, nor in tasks, nor in external responsibilities. It is a weariness that comes from within, from the brutal effort to sustain an identity that deep down is not your own. Live as one who acts, breathing like someone hiding, smile like someone pretending. Keeping masks requires psychic energy, energy that could be used to love, to create, to exist. But that is diverted to sustain appearances. Controlling emotions requires continuous repression. You train your mind to ignore anger, stifle sadness, postpone desire, like someone who closes windows to prevent light from entering, and avoiding certain thoughts, so that does take a heavy toll. You begin to build mental labyrinths, little traps of denial, and then you're lost inside. Carl Jung said, "The unconscious does not accept to be ignored. Everything that is repressed becomes shadow, and the shadow does not sleep. She demands compensation. She wants to be seen. She wants balance. That's why the body gets sick, because the soul screams where it can. That is why dreams become symbolic nightmares, because the unconscious speaks in its own language. That is why relationships break down, because the truth ignored in you begins to overflow in the form of projection, collection, coldness or despair, you believe you are in control. He thinks he has mastered his feelings, that he commands his life, that he avoids the worst. But in fact, it is silently being dragged along by what it does not want to look at. And this is where the paradox sets in. The mind that tries to avoid collapse ends up creating collapse. It produces anxiety to keep you on your toes, as if danger is always lurking. It generates depression to paralyze you when the danger is inside and there is nowhere to run. It generates addictions, distractions, compulsions, silent mechanisms to numb pain that has no name. It builds a whole life of escape from pause, from silence, from the mirror, until one day you wonder, run from what? Run from who? The answer is brutal in its simplicity. From you, of your deep self, of your broken self, of your whole self. Escape the pain of being. Escape from the power you fear, running away from the truth that if seen would change everything. And with that, also end the illusion you've built to survive. And that kind of escape tires, more than any external battle. Tired of living against yourself. It tires to lie inside. It tires to inhabit a body where the soul has no room to breathe. The prison of narratives. Do you believe what you've been forced to be? If you repeat a lie many times, it becomes true. Now, imagine repeating for years, decades, the lie that you need to be strong all the time. That feeling is weakness. That love is something that is earned, and not something that is deserved by simply existing. That there is value in you only when there is utility, when there is productivity, when there is silence in the face of pain. These lies were not invented by you. They have been passed on, hinted at, repeated, like invisible inheritances, like poisons diluted in affection. But the most devastating thing was not listening to them. He believed them. It was internalizing them to the point of not even questioning anymore. It was to begin to build the whole narrative of their existence on the basis of these beliefs. You have come to see yourself as the world has shaped you, not as you are. Life has ceased to be a field of discovery and has become a theatrical play where the script was already written even before you were born. And like every good actor who wants to be accepted, you memorized the lines. He incorporated the role. He forgot he was acting. Carl Jung called it the unconscious web of life. It is the invisible, silent, unforgiving script written by voices that are not your own. Voices of overwhelmed parents, of rigid teachers, of religions that taught more fear than love, from unhealed traumas, from blind social patterns, from a childhood where being accepted was safer than being whole. And the most cruel, it's that you start defending that narrative as if it's true, as if it were your truth. You protect this limited version of yourself as one who protects your own survival. Because to admit that she's a lie would be to open a rift. It would mean looking at chaos, into the void, to the formless immensity that exists before history. And that scares, because if what you believed all your life was just armor, who are you without her? But perhaps this question does not have to be an end. Maybe she's the beginning, because this I that you defend so zealously, this I that carries guilt, standards, demands, fears, masks, maybe it's never been you. Maybe you are not getting lost. Maybe he's finally undressing, and in the place where the forged narrative ends, the silent truth of your soul begins. You don't have to act anymore. Could be. You can feel it. You can relearn how to live without the burden of proving anything. Because before history, there was life, and she's still there, waiting for you.